that certain topics of discussion may not be comfortable for all listeners. Certain viewpoints may not reflect those of our partners, sponsors, affiliates, our hosts, or that of our guests. We would like to encourage everybody to keep a respectful and open climate of discussion for all topics, no matter how disturbing they may be. So viewer discretion is advised.
You know this world has gone insane. It is absolutely no secret. But tonight, Saturday night, you are about to experience the true measures of what that insanity can bring you. Tonight, you are about to see Ball and Bonkers, the one-of-a-kind show that delves deep into the world with no holds barred. Now, meet your hosts, Dakota Franson, specialist of the strange, and Christopher Mule, the UFO fanatic. Now, give it up, and let's see what these two idiots can bring you.
Welcome everybody to Saturday night again. We are here once again. We are live in the control room. I just wanted to say that, in the control room. We are joined tonight by the haunting of Sharon Rectory, Emma, Louise, Tully. How are you?
Hi everybody. I'm good.
So guys, we'll wait in the chat and we'll let it fill up for a minute or two. Dakota, how are you tonight, my friend?
Oh, doing good. Definitely excited for this one. Because it seems like every time we try to get a hold of Emma, something always tries to come through.
I know. I feel weird, guys. I don't offend in the chat because we've got some mediums in the chat there that can pick up in certain things, and I can feel a presence moving about behind you, Emma. I don't know if can you sense anything behind you, Emma?
Yeah, it's been here for the last few weeks now. Whatever is in this particular room, so it's roaming around.
Yeah. So we'll say hello to the people in the chat. We have PWI Spiritual Investigators. That is Sherry for Paranormal World. Hello, Sherry. We have Scottish Outlooker. Hello, Scottish Outlooker. How are you today, my friend? Who else do we have in there, Dakota? Bald and Bonkers,
Souls.
Chris. Don't know who that could be.
Imposter.
Lost Souls. An imposter. Definitely an imposter. Lost Souls. Welcome. So, without further ado, Emma, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about the house that you live in?
Yeah, it's like a lot of people probably already heard about it by now, especially anybody that's interested in the paranormal and that's interested in Irish kind of history. So Sharon Rectory is a 250-year-old rectory. My parents bought the house, actually the building even, they bought it in the early 1990s and renovated it, and we moved in, and basically shortly after we moved in, things started to kind of happen, strange things, and we didn't know anything really about paranormal or anything. My parents would have heard stories about the house and about the house being haunted, but I do think now that when I researched paranormal myself and all, I do believe that renovation work actually did cause a lot of activity.
Yes.
It's known kind of that, when you start renovating or you start building or transforming an old building, that, things can happen. Yeah. So, so it just kind of really kicked off from there. We've been living in the house now for 25 actually, it's a long time. I've basically grew up with ghosts all my life. But the house is a lot of history.
Yes.
There was a double murder that took place in 1797, where the lady of the house died, and then a guest that night, he was followed by the United Irishmen, and they lay siege upon the house, and they basically just shot through the windows. They threatened to burn the house down unless this man gave himself up. His name was Reverend Hamilton, to the cellar for hoping that he would escape the tunnels. But unfortunately, the tunnels had been bricked up at the time, so he was trapped. So they had no other option. Then they got a hold of him and they brutally murdered him outside the house. And obviously that's left such an imprint on the house now. They have, we've obviously that's probably, a good bit of what's going on now at the minute, of the spirits of Mrs. Waller, the lady that died, and Reverend Hamilton, and nasty things kind of there that lurks around too. So
it's an amazing place you've got. And guys, the links will be below for Emma's book. You really need to read this book, guys, because it starts off brilliantly and then it gets really kind of creepy. So always keep your light on. I'm not going to ruin things for you guys.
Don't read it before bed, guys, please, because I don't want you texting me saying you can't sleep.
I would just like to welcome some other people into the chat. Mike the Naked Bigfoot, welcome, my friend. Welcome into the chat. But it's quite interesting you say, a bit always stuck in my head when I read the book about what you told me about in the book about when you were starting the renovations. There was the bit where, was it your uncle? I can't remember to be exact. It was reversing was it a JCB and he knocked over, was it like a tree? Was it like a fairy tree?
Yes.
Could you tell us a bit about that?
When they were doing a bit of the work outside, my uncle, he's a digger driver, he accidentally hit one of the trees. It was only kind of later on they discovered that there was fairy trees, like a fairy circle of trees on the property. And shortly after the tree was damaged, my dad actually had a very bad accident where he nearly lost his life. And they do think that it was all down to the fairy tree being, damaged.
Yeah.
So they're definitely mischievous around the my mum would be very big into her fairies, so she would always be very weary around them, and leave offerings for them to keep them at bay. And so far everything's been fun. That they're there, and we just have to be respectful towards them. So.
Oh yeah. Yes. I mean, fairies are a very real thing. A lot of people don't believe in them, but they are a very, very real thing.
And Irish folklore now, it's very, very a lot of the Irish generation now, they would when they talk about the fae or the fairies, like it's a big thing, and you have to be even the county councils now, if there was a fairy tree and they were building a new road, they actually build the road around.
That's right.
Because of the curses that they leave upon you. So
another wee bit that I want to ask you about, and then I'll hand you over to my lovely co-host here. I have to say that now and again, it makes him happy, Have you had any more activity near the have you had any more activity near the well? Remember you told us about the well?
Yes, I did tell you about the well. We are actually finding out more and more all about the well. I can't remember now the last time I was talking to you, whether I spoke to you about what was going on with the well and what it was linked to.
No, you never told us.
Last year, whenever our good friend and psychic medium Kate Houston, she's always our go-to woman. I've talked about her many times, talked about her in my book. And we were finding out about the well, and I just one day I just randomly went down and just to see what I could feel and see if I get any EVPs down around it, and we were getting the name Elizabeth come through, or I was getting the name Elizabeth come through in EVPs. But when Kate walked down, I took her down one day, and she walked down, she instantly turned around and says, "That is not a well." She says, "That's a grave."
Wow.
She said she could see a circle of like a woman circling the well, not physical woman, like it was in the spirits, like she could see them circling the well. And she says that they're actually putting a spiritual seal on the well to stop whatever's down there coming up. And it's just talking through different psychic mediums and talking through different people, we do believe that it's connected, that whole part of that land is actually connected with a coven of witches. But it wasn't. They're not in the in the good sense. So that's kind of what's been happening at the minute. We are finding out a little bit more. each time we kind of dig further into it, I do have somebody that's doing a little bit of research on the land for me. I still haven't met him yet to talk to him about it, but it's all sounding very interesting so far. And from what our psychic mediums have been picking up, they've all been spot on with what, and the connection wise of what possibly have been on the land. And just recently we had a good friend of ours in the coachman's residence, and just whenever we were doing the walkthrough of the house and we took her down by the well, she says before she even knew anything where the well was even located on the property, she says that she was walking down close to it and she could get something that somebody was fighting for their life and fallen. And I never told her anything about what we were picking up recently. And she was kind of really spot on with what our other psychic medium was picking up. So whenever I told her about the coven then that was supposed to have been connected with land and connected with us well, it was, she was
that's quite weird you say that, because I don't know about you, Dakota, but I've got all my hairs are standing up. I've got that really weird feeling as if somebody just walked across my grave. You know that feeling that you get?
Do you have people in the chat also saying they're seeing somebody move behind Emma?
Really?
Yeah.
Lovely. Lovely.
Oh, I'll hand you over to Dakota now, Dakota. I can feel that.
Yeah, no, I noticed that we're occasionally getting spike. Oh, look, there it goes.
And there's a freezing cold breeze that's actually just come up beside me too. Whenever people say it's like moving around.
Yeah,
it's my legs.
There's something there. There's something there.
Yeah. Obviously, there's something there and who's wanting a lot of attention. So those of you who are listening through the podcast side of this, you may notice that there are signal interruptions. You got to remember the part of Ireland where Sharon Rectory is relatively out in the middle of the countryside. And speaking as someone who lives in a similar area, you can't get good internet. So may not all be spirits, but
I'm getting, it's weird. It's like somebody's walking over my grave, but I'm getting it over and over and over again. Do you know the feeling?
Yeah. It's like the goosebumps stand on you, kind of when you're that feeling just of something that's near your aura, as you would say.
There's a comment for you there from Mike, the Naked Bigfoot. Emma, you are pretty awesome.
Thank you.
Considering the stories that man has, that's high praise there.
Wow.
Yeah. He's his encounters with the fairies too. Yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah. So Dakota, would you like to take over?
Yeah. I wasn't going into a question before we went on to start the show. You did mention that obviously Sharon Rectory is a big tourist sort of spot. What considered one of the more haunted spots in Ireland. That you've had several encounters just doing walkthroughs of the house. Can you tell us about those? Because you definitely have us interested.
Yeah. So the walkthroughs of the house, what we do around Sharon or other locations?
Well, through Sharon, but we'll get to other locations because she does do other ghost hunts. But yes.
Yeah, I do other ghost hunts too, by the way. The walkthroughs of Sharon, last October now we decided to open up to the public for historical tours, like a haunted historical tour we were running. In the past we've had a lot of paranormal investigations and we did run a few public, but it was just getting too active in the house that we did decide to stop for our own safety and for my family's safety and others' safety. So we just says no, that we were stopping it all together, and if you'll realize why we stopped it. But whenever we done the haunted historical tours back in October, we ran them 2 weekends just before Halloween, and then on Halloween night too we had a haunted tour. And there was some really, really interesting feels from people that came in. Some were pretty skeptic coming in. I think they just wanted to come in just to see if it was real, or a lot were open-minded obviously, but a lot of people still were right in it. But yeah, after the walkthrough now, I think a lot of them kind of did change their mind, or they were questioned a bit. There was a few where it was one particular night we did a walkthrough, and we went out to one of the outhouses, and as we walked into one particular outhouse, we were just talking about the well and talking about the stories with the well. we heard a brick thrown in one of the outhouses next door. Now, a physical brick, and you could hear like it being thrown and then sliced a bit. And one of my joined us on the tour that night too, and he ran in to check it out, and there was a couple of other of the public went with him just to see if they could debunk it, if there was anything there that maybe, you know, that had off something and fell. But no, there was nothing there, and you know, we couldn't explain it, but everybody was on edge after it. A lot of people didn't feel comfortable even continuing on. Then down in the cellar too, on another particular night, we were walking down the cellar, and usually on the tour, what I would have, half of them would have went down to the cellar, while the other half would have went for refreshments. So with the smaller group came down to the cellar with me and Keith, and we were going through the story, and you know, we had the lights off and we set the mood just to kind of like, you know, for everybody to actually see how dark it is in the cellar and just to experience it in the dark. There was a few people now didn't feel comfortable and they had to leave, but the remaining that stayed, just after, you know, talking about the story and about the stories connected to the cellar, we started to hear kind of taps, and I thought it was just one of the guys that were just sitting on kind of a part of the wall that we had, and I thought he was knocking his foot, and I never really took it on, and it was only after a few minutes I says, "What is that knocking?" And everybody thought it was me, and I was like, I was standing, not even moving, and just as we sat still just to see if we could hear it again, it was like coming from the wall directly behind kind of where we were sitting, and that's nothing but dirt. There's nothing behind that wall. It wasn't even the part where earth would have been behind. So it was really, really creepy, and everybody felt, you know, the people that were there were like shocked because we were sitting so quiet and so still to see if it was anybody moving or if it was anybody doing it, and there was nobody moving. And it was, things like that was actually pretty interesting to see, because you're not calling out, you're just talking about, you know, the stories, and obviously they want to kind of, you know, have a wee involvement in it all too.
Is it can you hear that, Emma, Dakota? And there's people in the chat. I can hear somebody speaking.
I swore I just saw a shadow apparition come out of her mirror that she has back there.
This mirror here?
Yeah.
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
I swore I saw like a face, and there was a brief shadow that moved right behind you.
Wow. There's a lot going on behind me.
I think there is a lot going on behind you. It's weird because I see somebody at the door behind you.
Okay.
But there's like someone pacing up and down and up and down. That's what they're doing.
Uh-huh.
They're checking us out. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot going on behind me then. I'm not alone.
It was quite weird because there was a minute where you froze just for the split second with your internet, but the candles behind you didn't freeze.
So they still flickered?
Yes.
That's weird. Interesting.
So, Emma, let's jump for something else. Because obviously something waiting for me to ask a question. So you do ghost hunting. Can you tell us a little bit about your ghost hunting that you do?
Yes. So I myself and Kate actually started a group called Soul to Soul Paranormal. It was just solely just for us to go around and just it was more for kind of me to experience other locations, because I'm so interested in the paranormal and I wanted to kind of research more into other locations, just to kind of I wanted to get more answers as to why a location's haunted. Why does it, like, you know, why does we started off just me and Kate, and then we a friend of mine he's in our local town, Keith Ramsey, he joined it because he was actually in the very last investigation that we had in Sharon Rectory, because he's always been interested in the paranormal, and ever since that night it kind of drew him in even more, so he joined the team with us, and then we just started ourselves then just going to locations around our Donegal, sorry. So there was a lot of abandoned places that we would have known would have had a lot of history on them. And then just this year, then we kind of started to go to the bigger locations, you know, the rest of Ireland. So we've been to Redwood Castle in Tipperary, and we've been to Spike Island to help another team out with a public investigation, the infamous Spike Island. We've been just recently then to Leap Castle, and
that's a brilliant
yeah,
place,
that's about it was really good. It was really good. It was a really good experience. And then we were just in another military museum, which was very interesting. On my camera, that I felt a presence kind of linger around this area, and I thought I'd set the camera up with a laser grid. And usually, when you have the laser grid, it's not very much you get with a laser grid. And even the guys that we were actually with Book of Paranormal that night investigating, and they were even kind of skeptical over the laser grid because this is not really very much you would get with it. But I thought I'm just going to set it up just to see if anything breaks it. And yeah, there was actually something when I reviewed it back. I was actually shocked to actually get a full figure walk past, and it, it had the hat and this big heavy coat, and it just walked past the laser grid and broke the laser grid, and it kind of moved back a bit. So yeah, that was a really good capture. We've been to a few other places around Donegal too. This abandoned mills and another abandoned military fort. There's a lot of in Donegal. There's 7 on the actual Swilly, the Loch Swilly we would call it, which is just like a big river that kind of runs through Donegal around that area. So we investigated one of them, and I actually seen a figure peep through one of the windows at it. That we got quite a lot of activity there too. So we're planning to go back there again now in the summertime. Yeah. So it's just we've been trying to get out at least maybe once or twice a month. So it's good to kind of get out and experience other places.
I've been watching the stuff on your channel, and guys, please go and check out our channel. The links will be below. All links to the books, everywhere you can purchase them, all links will be below. It's quite interesting because, can I ask you something, Emma? Does anything ever follow you home?
Yes, there is. From time to time we do get, like, I do a lot of protection and stuff over myself, and I do try and do a lot of saging and stuff and cleansing before I leave a location. But there is times that you're kind of leaving in a hurry, and you do kind of forget, you forget yourself then sometimes because you're letting your guard down, and then that night, or maybe if you're in the house, but I don't know. It's very hard for me to determine whether or not if it's something that's already been here and it's something that's followed me home, because I'm always kind of getting activity regardless. So it really just depends. But I do believe that there's some things that actually, even before I go to a location, because I'm quite sensitive myself, I've actually had apparitions appear in my room at night, and I can't connect them to this building, this house. I do feel like that is always the location that I'm going to go to, and it's like they're coming to me beforehand, because I did have a military man actually come to me, and he walked through my legs in the bed and walked past my partner, and I was like,
oh my god,
okay.
Oh my god.
So
it's quite interesting, because when you're speaking now and again, I don't know, Dakota, I think Sherry in the chat can pick up on it, but it's as if there's a woman's spirit next to you right now, and she's agreeing with you. Because there's certain moments where she'll go, yes.
That's really
yes. It
could be Mrs. Waller that's here with me now.
That's what I was wondering, because it's weird, because I did see a dark shadow coming out of the mirror, which did kind of freak me out after Dakota told me about that. And then I thought, oh, maybe it's just a shadow. And then I seen something coming out and then floating up, and I was like,
I'll have to watch it back after and see now if I can see all these things.
I think there's going to be a lot of EVPs tonight.
Oh, yeah.
And I think tonight, when you listen back to this in the podcast, especially in the podcast, and you turn the sound right up in your car or wherever you listen to it, you will hear that voice going, yes, like that.
That's fantastic.
The man shadow, it's weird, because see where the candles are, it seems to get lighter when I feel the female's about. But when she's not about, it seems to get darker.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you a bit about this, okay? So I'm trying to think now, about it was literally, it happened on a Friday, and my partner was working away, and my mum was coming in to get my kids out to school because I was working. And funny, I kind of felt off beforehand. I felt off for a few days, but I never really kind of thought too much on it, because when I went out and I was working and I was doing things, I was fine.
No.
Only when I came back, I felt so exhausted. And it wasn't until my mum then mentioned, after she was getting the kids out to school, that she walked into my son's room and she felt physically sick. She says she felt like she was actually going to in the house. She felt really, really sick. And when she left, she's actually, at one point she says, I was actually thinking, how am I going to get the kids to school? But when she went down then and she got the kids to school and she came back and she was over in the main house, it lifted. It was fine. And it was only then towards that week, through the weekend then, that things was happening here in the house. And it was the Sunday night. I was standing in the kitchen, and again, the kids were in bed, I was on my own, and I felt something come right up on you. And I actually looked it over and I was like, I know you're there. And I was like, back off. And it went away. And then when I went to bed that night then, and I got up the next morning, I just was so drained. I just felt like that I just was hit by a bus. It just was just the overwhelming fatigue, and it just came out of nowhere. And I just thought, how am I going to go to work today?
Yeah.
And the next morning then, on the Tuesday morning, I actually woke up and I looked in the mirror and I washed my face, and I seen scratches, and there was 3 scratches in the front of my neck. And I got the kids to school and I wasn't working this day. So I came back and I thought, I need to lie down again. And I lay down in the bed, and keeping in mind, this was during the day and it was around maybe 10:30 in the morning. And I came back and I lay in bed. And as I lay in bed, there's knocks and bangs right beside me here now. As I lay in bed, I actually felt something, a weight like crawling up the bed.
Yeah.
And I felt it sit on my hip.
Okay.
Because I was light, and I couldn't get my arms to move to actually lift my phone, to get my phone, because I was trying to fight to get my phone on the side locker, and I couldn't see nothing, but I could feel the weight. The weight was just there. And I eventually got the phone in my hand, but I couldn't unlock it. I kept putting in the wrong key code, and it wasn't, the facial recognition wasn't working. So I couldn't unlock my phone because I was going to try and ring my mum to come over. And I fought anyway, back and forth. And whenever I eventually got the strength and was able to move and get up, it was an hour that I was fighting, an hour and a half roughly, that I was fighting this thing.
Wow.
And I physically couldn't move. I was just sitting, and I was praying. I was like, please just leave me alone. And I was just, my grandfather passed away a few years ago, and I was calling him in to try and help me. And it was awful. Like, and this whole bedroom, this room, it just felt different. It didn't feel like a bedroom. It just felt horrible. Like when you come in, it fell straight through you. And I do feel like that there's a portal that's actually just around the side of the house that things is coming into, and it really is. It really got worse. Like, whenever Kate came to visit on the Tuesday after all this was happening, or the Tuesday or Wednesday after this all happened. It was about a week later. She walked into my hall and she was like, oh my God, the dense energy that is in here. She says it's unbelievable. And she walked into my living room, and as she walked into my bedroom, she's like, I don't even know how you can sleep in that bed. She says the heaviness in here is unbelievable. She says she didn't even know what it was, because she says she hadn't felt anything like this before. She says it was like electric running through her body.
It's weird, Emma, because I think Sherry in the chat, she's picking up on someone saying yes, and I can hear now and again. I can hear yes, and a very quaint woman's voice. It's a very quaint, as if posh kind of type. Oh yes, well, that's what it's like. It's a kind of posh kind of. It's a very quiet, very nice voice, but there's something dark. There's something there, and I don't know what it is. But it's like every now and again, it's as if the woman is coming up behind you, as if she's trying to put her hand round about you to like protect you, and it gets all light behind you.
Yeah, and there's there's stuff going on now. There's something over here and there's something over there that's moving, because I don't know now which is what's on what side of me. But I just seen something just there pop. When Kate recommended, she says, you know what you need to do, she says, is get your salt, and you know, I have charged salt from the moon that I would use, and I would shake it through, you know, outside or anywhere for protection. And she advised me, she says, to shake it through the whole rooms and the floor, and to sweep it out.
Did MD in the chat there see that? That was the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life. It's like you've got the two drawers where the candle sits on top of.
Yeah.
And then it was like something like, it was like material. Like, did you see that, Dakota? Tell me you seen that. It was like something like spinning.
There was I can see something moving around. I think it's just an energy in here that's moving, you see, that you're probably seeing. Because I can see it from time to time. It's catching me in the corner of my eye. But I do believe it's whatever's here that I felt a few weeks ago, that's definitely here. I can feel it. But as for this woman, I wonder if it is Mrs. Waller that's actually here, maybe trying to protect me from it. I really don't know.
I mean, all my hairs are standing up in my arm. It's weird because every now and again it gets light, and I can feel like this loving presence running about you. But then it's as if she goes somewhere.
Yeah.
It's as if she walks out the room. Maybe she's keeping an eye on your kids, though. Maybe she's keeping an eye on your kids.
It could well be. Yeah, that's this, and it's funny. Whenever my mum came in, then I says go in, and because I went down to lift the kids from school one day, and I says to Mum, nobody's in the house, go in and just see what you feel in my bedroom. So she walked in, and my mum's very sensitive, as you know yourself. She's picking up a lot of things, and she would pick up names and stuff. And as she came into the room and sat in the room, she says the shivers went over her, and he says that his name was John, and he was the evil one. And she went around with frankincense and sage and called an angel Michael and told him to leave. But I do think that he just is coming in and out. He's just walking freely through.
It's that. Honestly, I think that's what it is. I think she's coming over for the house. She's coming over to make sure you're okay. And then she's going to your kids.
Yeah.
And when she leaves, that's coming in.
Yeah.
And when she comes back in, it's leaving. It is so weird. What are you getting, Dakota? What do you feel it's?
Yeah.
Definitely somebody's watching, but it's become such a routine that it's like you were talking, you know, growing up with spirits, you know, it's become such a routine with those two. It doesn't feel of any significance. Oh, it's just us dancing again.
Yeah. That's exactly what it's like. It's like I'm so used to them and they're so used to me, but it's just when it becomes unpleasant, it becomes so uncomfortable to live with. That's whenever I'm like, no, this time, whatever this is, whatever this man, whoever this man is, he's draining me so much that I can't physically do the clearing myself. I'm calling in help from, you know, other people to help me, because it is just it's too strong for me. He's like feeding off me, do you know, at the minute, which is, it's frustrating because I know that he is doing it. And I just, to tell you the truth, that what it felt like a couple of weeks ago, and I've mentioned to a few people, the last time I felt like this was whenever I was living in the coachman's residence. The same kind of...
Yeah, because I remember that in your book.
Just exhaustion and so like I feel like now I'm a bit stronger in the head sense of that. I know that what it's doing, and I would never go back to that state again, hopefully. But it's like I know what it's trying to do. Do you know? I know that it's trying to do that, and it could well be the same thing that's doing it, and it's like, just I found you, and I'm gonna come back and torture you.
Have you ever thought about bringing in like an exorcist, like an exorcist?
Yeah, we've had to a point where when we were getting people in, and they were saying they were going to go and clear it and clear the house and clear the property, and something like this doesn't be cleared overnight. There was apparently exorcists that took place in this house years ago. I mean, the turn of the century, apparently. Can't find any documented proof on it, but word of mouth from people that knew the people lived here, that apparently the exorcist took place. They says that a lot happened that night that it did. We did have priests in before do an exorcism to take place here, it would take a lot to try and get the Vatican, and you'd have to go kind of up high then to try and get that, and it's a process. Like, it's not just you can go and call them up and say, can you do an exorcism, because there's a lot that
the fear with that too, with an exorcism is if the exorcism accidentally gets rid of the other spirits too.
See, this is it. We don't mind all the Mrs. Waller and all the peasant spirits here and all the spirits of the servant. We would want them to stay here. At the end of the day, if they wish to stay, we're not going to force them to leave. It's the negative stuff that we need to try and get rid of, but it's very difficult to try and get the right person in. And it, as I say, like it would be a process. It would be happening over a period it could take months, it could take years to try and properly clear a location like this.
I would just like to welcome Kate Hudson into the room. She's Houston, in the chat. Yeah. Hey, Kate.
Hi, Kate.
Thank you for coming. And to the Facebook user, thank you for coming too. It's weird. Every time I've had you on, Emma, weird things happen. And let's face it, weird things do happen. I mean, it's what can you see the future for the house? What is the future? Where do you want to see everything go?
Well, obviously we're still going to remain here. We're still going to live here. It's not going to be the case where we're going to get up and leave anytime soon. You know, it would take a hell of a lot. It would take a hell of a lot for us to leave. So, like, book, there's other things happening in the background I can't discuss quite yet, but it's a lot of exciting things. So just keep your eyes peeled. In the next few years, there's going to be a lot that's going to be happening, and it currently is a lot happening at the minute. But as I say, I can't really discuss it.
It's an amazing building. It is an amazing building. I mean, after I read the book, I thought I'm going to have to look this place up, and I looked that up, and I thought, wow. I mean, it's quite interesting because there's actually quite a lot of interesting places very close to it. And it's I found quite interesting. There's no like an old burial ground, just it's got a graveyard that's not that far from it. It's just down the road.
This is the an old abbey, a graveyard. It's only about 5 minutes away. We've actually investigated it a few places. Kate, if she's still in the chat, she'll be able to come in here and talk about it. But it's very, very interesting location. There is a lot to different things that's down there. Actually, when she came back, there was a lot of stuff happened to her in the house, in the main house. She says when she came in, and the next day after she was down there, investigating, she says that she woke up and she was doing her bits and pieces around the house. But she says when she was downstairs and she came upstairs, just off her bedroom, there was like a little walkway where there's a wardrobe, and she has like a hot press, an iron cupboard with like loads of bed linen and sheets and stuff. And she says when she came up, the door for the house was like, and she says just when she was going in, she was picking up all the stuff to put back because she was trying to figure out. She was like, how did they fall? But even in the manner that they fell, they were out in the middle of the floor, all over the walk-in wardrobe.
Emma, did you hear that?
No.
Did you hear that? It was I would say 37 something onwards. There was like so somebody went like that with their thumbs. It's like snapped.
Right.
Did you not hear that? That's crazy. That's crazy.
I never even heard it. Second the headphones and the mic.
In the podcast, you need to watch this back on.
I'm going to have to watch it back now and see what I can pick up on.
Yep.
But no, whenever she was putting all the sheets and stuff away, she says her car alarm just went off. And she went down to the car and she was like, why is this going off? And she put it off again. And when she looked in her car, she had, the masks, the COVID masks she has on her indicator.
Yes.
They were all sprawled out the front of the car. They were like pulled everywhere, and they were all like sprawled. So that was kind of stuff that was happening, just like it only happened within that day after that she was down in this wee graveyard. But we do believe that graveyard, now we've tried and we've looked for Mrs. Waller's grave in a lot of different areas, or graveyards around the area, and we haven't found her grave yet. But I still think that it possibly is down there in the old abbey that she's buried.
Yes.
It's just so overgrown at the minute, and a lot of the gravestones and the headstones are sunken into the ground, so it's very, very hard
Yeah.
to read them.
Do you not think that you should maybe dig the well
So
up?
it's just we're going to look at. It's like really, really hard to try and find her. So it's because we would love to find her and pay our respects, then to know where her grave is, to be able to go down on her anniversary then with flowers and things, and just basically
That would be a good thing to do.
Yeah.
It would be. But here's a question. See how you say about the well. Do you not think you should maybe dig the well up?
See, the well's there. It doesn't need to be dug up.
Yeah.
It's like it's just a big slab, big concrete slab that's over it, and it's not like your well that you would see in the ground. I would say at one stage it probably had the ring at that was like the wall at the top. But I'd say over time, just over the hundreds of years, the ground built up around it and the grass and stuff, and just basically sunk into the ground. Now there is a natural spring that runs into that well. So the time that we had the house fire back in, it must be about 8 years ago now. Obviously, I talk about that in my book too. It was just a fire that just happened. It broke out in the attic, and
that's right.
It was in one particular part of the building, and when the fire crews came, they only have like a certain supply of water on the trucks with them, and they were saying they had to try and find access to more water. And then my uncle that was there, he was like remembered about the well, so they went down, and they actually, it was at night, it was dark. I don't know how they even found it because it's so overgrown. They got the well, moved the slab, and they put the water, or the hose in to get the water out from the well, and then that was put through the whole house. So down there, that obviously was, sitting in that water, and even the spiritual kind of things that was to do with that well, and then that's been put through the whole house. Even like symbolically, like that, what's that going to affect with the stuff that's already in the house? The spirits already in the house.
It's probably it makes you wonder, because I mean, remember that image you showed me, Emma, the one where it looks like there's like a woman in like a nightgown.
Yes,
at the bottom of the
hanging
garden.
in the trees. Yeah,
it's hanging in the trees, guys. Honestly, I don't know. Is there anywhere that people can actually see this stuff? Is there any? Do you have a place? Do you have this posted? All of this stuff posted?
Yes, it's still all on the Facebook page.
Right.
You can go down through the photos. They'll be down, and the posts and stuff talking about them would be all up about it. So that'll be on the Sharon Rectory Facebook, because I must actually start to repost them all again so people can see them, because it was many years ago I put them up. But if you go down through the pictures, you'll be able to see.
Oh, that image is one of the best images I've ever seen. Dakota knows the one that I'm talking about. I mean, that I zoomed right up to it. I enlarged it and I blew it right up, and I'm like, my God, you can see that. You can see the dressing gown, but there's nothing. There's no head.
There's no head.
arm.
There's nothing. Like no head, no arms, no legs. It's just literally the dress floating. It is one of the best ones and it was just caught in the security camera. It was just in my gallery in my phone, because it was a still shot from whatever movement that it was that my security camera picked up, and I didn't detect it until it went into my gallery. Yeah. So that's it. It was definitely one of the ones that was really interesting captures that we got.
Was brilliant. Just like to say to people in the room, welcome Shrimp Shack for coming. Thank you for joining us.
About the well. The well was drained after that fire, but whenever the next morning we went down to look at it, it was full of water again. So it is, even if you try and drain the water to see what's down the well, it fills up pretty quick.
Have you ever tried dropping a magnet down it?
See, that's what we're going to try and do, is maybe drop even one of them wee GoPro cameras down.
Yes.
Just to see. I know it'd be very dark, but sound or something just to see, it would be interesting. But that's kind of on my to-do list. That's what we're going to try and do.
Something for the future. Dakota, would you like to ask?
Sorry, I keep getting caught up because I'm trying to listen to all this stuff and try and make mental notes of stuff going on in the background. But so, being that you do have all this activity, do you have any big investigations coming up outside of the rectory?
We have, next in the 2nd of July, we are in Cumber House again. My team and Puka Paranormal are good friends, so we're team up, and we're very interested in location. We've investigated it a few times. Very, very dark activity there. It's actually all connected with the man that owned the house at the time, Brown. He was just not really a nice person when he was living, but he died, and then I think there was a story then of a priest actually bringing him back through a ring of fire, and all like to do with the devil and demons and stuff all coming through at the time. And it's all really kind of cloudy. In Northern Ireland, you'll get all the history and the story about it, but it's a very, very dark story. When we first investigated it, my mum, she's a very, very sensitive person, and she picks up quite a lot, but she actually did, in one of the big ballrooms upstairs, she's seen something that actually terrified her, and I never see my mum scared. It takes a lot for my mum to be scared, especially with us living here. But what she seen that night, she's like a beast. That's the way she was describing it, was a beast. She says it just was all distorted, and it had like, she got a picture of it on the internet of what it kind of looked a bit like, but she couldn't even explain it at the time. But I could see her face. She was like, I don't like it at all, and she kept calling it the beast. So we do believe that whatever this priest had done many, many years ago, obviously was bringing through a lot of things. And it's a very interesting location. So we're heading back there again to see if what else we can do there.
I'm going to look forward to seeing that when it comes out.
Yeah.
I'm going to look forward to seeing that. Dakota, would you like to ask one more? Because we've only got about 11 minutes left.
Oh, there's never enough time when we have Emma on, I swear.
There's so much. Especially now me going to other locations too, because I've got so many stories.
I know.
Do you want to kind of ask something that was in the chat earlier? Do you know if there's a spirit of a dog that hangs around the area?
Sorry, can you repeat that, Dakota? You kind of frozen there.
Do you know if there's a dog spirit that's hanging around the area?
Yeah. Right. So the story with the dog, the black dog, this goes back many years ago. I was probably maybe 8 or 9, maybe even younger. I read about it in my book. Whenever I was outside, we had 2 Labrador dogs at the time, and whenever I was growing up, I was such an outdoor child. I was always outside. It has about 5 acres around the house, so there was so much kind of land to explore. And I was walking down the back laneway, and my 2 dogs was picking up on something in the hedge. So I could see them going over, and I thought, was it probably a cat or a rabbit? And I called back the dogs, and I was kind of looking in the hedge myself, but out jumps this huge black dog out of the hedge. And it was like a dog I can't even explain. It was like, it wasn't a particular breed. But it was nearly the size of Dane. It was just so big. And it had red eyes. And my 2 dogs started to bark and growl at it. And the dog turned and ran towards the gateway. And my 2 dogs ran after, but I was trying to run back to the house, and I was trying to call the dogs to run back with me. But this black dog just disappears, and the 2 dogs were left kind of confused. They were like, what is going on? And I ran into the house, and I told Mum, and Mum's face kind of went, she was a wee bit shocked. Talked about before they actually bought the property. And they came down. It was long before even I was born, but they always had an interest in Sharon Rectory and the stories that was connected to it. And they came down one summer's evening. They came down the back laneway, and they parked closely up to the actual back gates. And they were kind of debating whether or not to get out and actually to explore the property. And as just about they were just to get out of the car, they seen this dog, this huge black dog, just appeared out from between the trees, because where the trees, it's not as many trees now, but it was must have been hiding in among them. And it run out and ran towards the gate, and it actually jumps through the closed gate, hits the side of the car, and disappears. And like, this dog, from what I've seen, that there'd been no way able to fit between the gaps in the gate, but they seen it run through the actual gate. My dad puts the car in reverse and backs up the laneway. And it was kind of like they were freaked out because they were like, what in the under of God was that? My investigator that works along with me, he actually talked about, he didn't know anything about this story about the black dog. And, you know, when we were doing the investigations years ago, and when he was at the last investigation, we were talking about the black dog. And it was only after then he actually talked to me about it. And he goes, just as you mentioned the black dog, he says, a friend of mine was actually coming up to visit your dad one day. And he says, as he came up the lane, he says he was chased by a black dog. And we didn't have a dog at the time.
Okay.
Whenever you know, Keith then came back up with him, and nobody must have been at the house at the time, and they knocked at the door. Keith says there was no dog about, and this was only kind of a story recently, and he's only really told me in the last year or so. Like, so that was really, really interesting then to say that there was somebody else had that experience with a black dog, and there was supposed to have been many other people. Even through our tours, our last October, there was more people actually saying that this black dog that they seen around the actual area, around the extended area. So this black dog obviously is connected to the land. And it could be a protector. It could well be a protector of Sharon, but it's maybe a protector in the sense of in the dark side. Do you know? Because to me, it just didn't
makes you
look like
wonder.
it didn't really look like. They call them hellhounds, and if this was a hellhound, it definitely looked like something from hell. That's the only way I can describe it. It just was not pleasant whatsoever.
Also in your book, I was going to ask you. You talked about you seen this apparition one day of an old man, and he was walking down your road. Has that happened again? Have you seen him or?
I can't remember if it was recently since I've been talking to you last, if there was somebody actually seen him, or I think there was something to do with a man on the lane again, and I can't remember now for the life of me who told me about it. It wasn't me this time. It was somebody else actually, I think, mentioned about this man. But no, we recognise him now as Barney. He would have been actually one of the Waller's servants, one of the Waller's help. The Waller family would have been the owner of the died. He is known to walk the laneways in spirit. So I think he's kind of just a protector overall on the lane. But I've seen him many times. I've seen him whenever I was a child, and then there was one morning I was going out early to work, and I seen him walk from tree to tree. So he'd kind of vanished behind the tree, and you were expecting to wait to see him come out the other side, and he never appeared. And I was like, "That's just Barney." Do you know? It's just Barney. Freaks you out for a minute, and then you're like, "Oh, sure, it's just him. It's okay."
Honestly, Emma, your house must be amazing to go and do an investigation at. Dakota, you need to go to Emma's and do an investigation and get chased by the hellhound.
Well,
wouldn't it be amazing if you actually caught that on camera? The hellhound.
Why am I the one having to take on the dangerous jobs, Chris?
It's okay. I'll get a couple of tennis balls. If it starts running towards me, I'll throw a ball for it or something like that, you know.
Oh, gosh.
Emma, I'm going to give you the opportunity for the airways and YouTube and everywhere for it. Can you please plug all your links or any places you would like to plug?
Yes. Okay, there's so much. So we've got Soul to Soul Paranormal. We have Soul to Soul Paranormal, which is our group on Facebook, and you'll be able to get all our videos and our investigations on YouTube too, which is the Soul to Soul Paranormal team. So you can check that out. And then with the Sharon Rectory, we've got Sharon Rectory Ireland on Facebook, and we have obviously on Instagram too, and we have a Sharon Rectory YouTube. But I haven't been doing any YouTubes for the Sharon Rectory, but there's definitely a few interesting videos, and I talk about Sharon Rectory, so definitely go and check that out. And then my book then is on Amazon, The Haunting of Sharon Rectory. So you can check that out and give it a wee read, and hopefully it'll not keep you up at night.
Oh. Trust me, guys, it's a brilliant read. Just don't turn your light off at night.
You gotta read true stories, look up, and all of a sudden there's a pair of eyes looking at you like, "Oh, hello."
I know.
I mean, the first time I read the book, I was halfway through it, and it was a really windy night. It was one of those autumn nights, and the light was off, and the rain's hitting off the window, and it was just the creepy way you started telling the story about the entity that climbed up the stairs.
I know. Yeah, and that's only the start.
I know. I
Just
just
it just kind
can't
of kicks off from there.
I just can't wait to get the next
Yeah.
Mm.
So the next
volume
book,
2.
the next book is going to continue on from where we left off after, you know, and just kind of going through of what we were kind of doing from then on in, and what scary stuff was happening, things that probably the most weirdest things that's ever happened since then. Like, but I'm not going to give too much away because I write it all in the book.
I want to sit in a dark room with the wind howling outside and the weird shadows in the room, you know, and read the book.
Yeah. And then we're going to talk more about the whale in it. So as I say, like, there's a lot kind of with the whale, and it's nearly like a different story in itself. You know, you could nearly write a book solely on the whale because of all the stuff that's we're picking up and finding out about it, like, because you know, through one of them the haunted tours too, this is a good thing about doing the haunted tours, because we have a lot of people that would be known in the area that know about you know, so it's like what they've been told when they were a child about the house, that we're always finding more stories about Sharon. And there was actually a woman came over to us, and she was a local woman, and she says that her grandfather used to always talk about the coven of witches between the two villages.
That's
so
very interesting.
Yes, and like you know, we knew nothing about that, so it's crazy.
Well, hopefully it's in your book.
Yeah, it'll be all in the book.
Yeah, looking forward to that.
Oh yes, definitely looking forward to that.
I know your friend's back behind you again. It's weird because it's like it comes and goes and comes and goes. It's like the darkness comes, then it goes, and then the whiteness comes. It's just so weird. But I would just like to thank you for coming on, Emma. Honestly, and maybe when your book comes out, we'll maybe get you on again and maybe do a wee bit of advertising. You know, get you out there. And I would like to thank everybody in the chat tonight.
So so we can talk more about that hopefully then.
Oh yes.
Yeah. So Dakota, any announcements or anything tomorrow night? Who have we got tomorrow night?
Yes, we do have somebody we actually pulled from the chat during our Mothman episode.
Yes, we do.
Let's see, what was his name? Ken Allen or something?
Yeah.
From the Wizard's Table. There's definitely going to be some very interesting conversation with this guy. I'm honestly looking forward to it. So be sure to check that out. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, the Bald and Bonkers TV network. You know, just Google us. It'll be quicker than me rambling off.
Hey, Google Bald and Bonkers, and you'll see a beautiful picture of my co-host here with his suit on, all looking very professional, you know.
And you with the DJ fucking look.
I know. See, this is the banter, Emma. This is the banter that we have. So, what's that? There's Mike the Naked Pig. It was an awesome hearing from you, Emma. There you go. There's Mike.
Oh, thank you.
But anyway, guys, thank you for coming tonight, and I hope you all have a lovely Saturday night. Don't let the spooks get you in the night.
They came to the wrong show.
They came for the wrong show. They came for the wrong show. But guys, please tune in tomorrow night, and I hope you all have a brilliant night. Catch you all later, dudes. See you.
What's up? Bye.
1